So you want to know about the last 2 weeks? It was a big nothing burger, okay? Things are changing a little bit, but let's talk about it real quick. This is Dean Odell with Seven Gables Real Estate in the Odell Group, and we're going to be looking at the Orange County data today, followed by a little special segment on the Tustin data. So let's go to the charts and get started now. All right, so starting with the first chart, we're the purple line. Remember how we had that great beginning of the year where it just shot up and I was getting all excited because if you look at that with the other ones, they were flat, and even 2022, the orange one went down, right? So the purple one started out really good, but you can see it's starting to level off already. Now, compared to other years, the inventory was actually going down, except for 2022. It had just gone up a little bit more. So you can see there's just, what do we say? A nothing burger? Is that what I said at the beginning of this thing? It's a nothing burger. But what we're not seeing, what I was hoping for, was that purple line to keep going up and people keep listing their houses. So if we look at where we are today, there's 1,939 homes on the market. 2 weeks ago, the numbers were almost identical. Last year, you could see it was 2,305 homes, but we need to get back to that prior to COVID years, and that was 4,977 before 2020 would have been the normal level of listings for now. So you can see that we are down almost 3,000 listings from what's normal. That's crazy. Looking at demand, what you'll see on that purple line is there's a pretty steep angle there, not quite as steep as what we had last year on the light blue line, but you can see where it's fallen off now. Our demand has dropped a little bit where that purple line drops away from the blue line. And the reason I think that is because we had a nice little interest rate bump over the last few weeks. We're up to 7%, maybe even low 7%. So that is having about a 5% effect on affordability. And we're going to look at a chart about affordability after this. So looking at the numbers today, we're at 1,397 sales. You could see where we were 2 weeks ago at 1,290. And last year we were at 1,537. So you can see that we don't have quite as high as demand as we did last year. If we look at that 3-year average prior to COVID, you can see we were almost at 2,400 homes. So almost 1,000 more sales pre-COVID for this time of year. But remember, we had 3,000 more homes out there for buyers to choose from. So I know the buyers watching this would love to see 3,000 more homes on the market to choose from right now. So let's go to the next chart. So here is an example of interest rates impact on affordability, right? So let's just say somebody wanted a $5,000 a month payment and they're going to put 20% down. Okay, there's a lot of buyers that can handle that $5,000 payment with the tax benefit and everything else. But if you look at where we are now at 7%, that only translates to a $940,000 purchase, where last week, 2 weeks ago, we were at 6.5. You could see 989 almost. So people have lost 49, almost $50,000 worth of purchasing power just in the last 2 weeks. So you can see how this can really affect affordability and how it could bring demand down. Now, if you look at this next chart, this goes by house payment on a $1 million home with 20% down. So this would be an $800,000 loan. And you can see how the payments change from all the way to the left at 5.5% to all the way to the right at 8%. You can see big difference. And we're at 7% right now. That's a $5,322 payment versus last couple of weeks, it was closer to $5,000. For most people, their payment's already gone up, $250 plus a month. So that's a big difference. And when you look at that, on an annual basis, it computes to a lot more money, right? $3,180 more dollars that people are going to have to put out for their house than 2 weeks ago. Now, if you look at that left side of the chart, you can see at 5.5, they were already having to put $9,360. Now, not to depress anybody, but let's not forget that it was just a very short time ago where rates were 3.5%, right? So you can see how interest rates have such an effect on what people can afford. Okay, this next chart is the expected marketing time. And if you remember from last week, I said, let's hope this begins to flatten out because we don't want this market to get too overheated and too crazy. And today it's at 42 days, where last week it was at 45. So we didn't get that steep drop like you see in the purple line from the beginning of the year. We're starting to level out. Last year we were at 45 days, so we're still just a couple days quicker than that. The 3-year average was 64 days. So we're still faster than the pre-COVID time, still a faster moving market. And if you look at what that translates to in the legend up there, we are really in still a hot seller's market. No new news there, but we always want to see what's going on by price range. So if we look at this next chart, this is the breakdown by price range. And you can see how we've bracketed off the hot sellers market for you guys. It's anything up to $2 million right now. Slight sellers market between $2 and $4 million. And then we have a slight buyers market. We skipped over a balanced market altogether, right? So we go from a slight sellers market to a slight buyers market to a deep buyers market, depending on the price ranges. So you can see how that plays out. Just goes to show you that there's different markets in different price ranges. And now it's time for the Tustin data chart, which you're only going to find here. And we do it for the 3 zip codes of North Tustin, Tustin Ranch, and the legacy areas. So that's 3 different zip codes. This is January 23 to January 22, a comparison. See what the market's done. So if we start with what's for sale, we started out great because remember this data is 2 weeks old. And so sometimes it's not as timely as the Orange County data we provide you. We have to wait for this data to come out. So you can see we started out really hot where over last year we were up 19% just on inventory in the 92705 zip code, down 14% on the 92780 zip code, and the same on the 92782 zip code. So a lot of different things going on in these zip codes, right? So if you look at the new listings, I mean, look at the new listings in North Tustin, up 137.5%, 19 now versus 8 last year that came out in January. So that's pretty amazing. Then if you look at what's going on sales, everything's down 20%, right? That just means that those are the houses that were already in escrow that closed. So that can fluctuate. We look at pendings. I mean, look at the different markets and the different pendings, right? You know, you're up 91%, 92% in 92780. You're up 70% in 92780, and you're down 23% in 92705. So what that tells me, and from what I've been seeing going on in 92705, I think that pricing might be a little optimistic right now coming out. So I think people are hitting it a little hot, but maybe the market will prove us wrong and things will be selling. So let's see what happens there. Months of inventory, we've got less inventory than we did last year in all those zip codes, except for 92782. It stayed the same. Look at the average actives and solds. You can see the arrows and what's going on there. We look at the final list price to original list price. You can check out the data there, see what's going on. Not a whole lot of flexibility in price. Average days on the market, you can see that that's actually gone up and it's gone down in 92782. So Tustin Ranch, interesting market. They seem to go through these cycles where they come out too optimistic on price, things sit around for a while, then a bunch of stuff sells, it establishes the new market there, then people hit it right, and then boom, it goes. So it's kind of interesting. I think that might be what's going to be happening in 92705 right now. I think, like I said, that pricing might be a little optimistic there, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so feel free to pause this and look at it for longer, figure out what's going on in your marketplace. And I am now going to move to my advice and a little boots on the ground observations. The market seems to be kind of getting stretched here a little bit. Seems like, you know, at least at these interest rates, that the buyers are definitely a little bit more hesitant than they were even just a few weeks ago. That's what we've been noticing. And we've been seeing some really high asking prices, which I personally think is a giant mistake on the seller's part. I'm seeing houses that are starting to sit now and not get offers, where if they would have priced them correctly to begin with, they would have still probably had multiple offers with the demand that's out there. So be careful, sellers, about overpricing. If you want to know more about correct pricing, give us a call. We can explain and help you out, especially in some of these areas where agents don't work every day. If you have custom homes and stuff like that, things are different. It really helps to talk to someone who's actually been in these houses and knows the difference behind them, not just looking at pictures and trying to price your house off of that. Sorry about that. Cell phone went off, kind of diverted my attention. Anyway, so let's move on. So my advice is don't get greedy. It's a great market. Prices have gone up so much, it's insane. I just sat down with somebody and talked about where we were even just pre-COVID compared to now. And if you look back to like 2016 to pre-COVID, it was amazing how much prices have gone up. So the buyers are really feeling stretched. They've seen prices go up continually all the way since 2011. They've seen interest rates that were lower that have now gone up. Just interest rates alone has cost them 40% probably on purchasing power. And then on top of that, you've got the prices of home. So try to put yourself in the buyer's shoes. Try to look at what the payments are going to be for these people, and you'll understand why it's just not easy to just keep throwing numbers out there that don't make sense, right? So sellers, that's my best advice for you guys. Give us a call. We can help you with that. We can help you get your houses ready. Okay, buyers, so this is my advice for you. So what I would do if I were you guys is I would just be very patient. I know a lot of you are, because we're dealing with a lot of you guys out there too, right? We see how many people come through our listings on open houses. We see how many offers we get relative to the amount of people that are out there. So we know that there's some really good buyers out there. So when you see these houses sitting around and not selling for some reason, then, chances are that property is having a hard time getting its price, especially after say a 60-day period, depending on the price range it's in. Every price range is different. That's why we put up those price range comparisons for time expected on the market. But if you really want to know what's going on, you got to work with an agent that's local and that knows what's going on. The biggest mistake I'm seeing you buyers make, and I know this because I'm a listing agent, is that you're trying to go direct to the listing agent all the time, okay? That is not the way to do it, okay? Most transactions, over 90% of the transactions that are out there, have two agents involved. One that represents your best interest and one that represents the seller's best interest. When you try to take that same agent and put them together on both sides of a transaction, it is nearly impossible. I mean impossible to know that you're being represented fairly. And normally what happens, you say, oh, well, you could throw some money at it. The agent will cut a % off or whatever. Well, you still don't know that that's the solution. And sellers, you don't know that that's the solution, because we've seen it. And I am not going to go into a long story about it right now, but I can tell you right now, you're much better off with two agents, one for the buyer, one for the seller. So buyers, get yourself a good buyer's agent. Now is the time to be sitting down with agents and understand the different way they work, understand the knowledge base they have, understand their experience in the business. I would just strongly advise you to get your own representation, okay? And we've got a lot of people on this team that represent buyers as well, so give us a call and we can help you with that. So that's it for today, and I'm going to see you guys in 2 weeks. Please subscribe if you haven't done that already, and like us, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.